Welcome into the OBR pregame week 5 Browns and Commanders. You better start getting excited if you're not already excited for this one, folks. It's a gotta have it game for the Browns. We're going to talk all about it here with my esteemed panel. Next to me, we have the one and only Jacob Roach. What's going on, Jacob? Jacob is muted. Casey Kinnaman down at the bottom. What's going on, Case Dog? Good to see you, brother. Coming out of the weather, you are alive and well, and that's wonderful to see. I'm glad that you have survived your days gone. It's good to see you back, brother.
I appreciate that, man. I want to reach out to everybody who reached out to me and checked on me during the dark week down here. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's okay. My daughters got to experience what life was like in the 1980s. Watching them struggle was real. But after 4 days, I was over it too. But we got power back, and so just excited to actually get to watch football on a TV instead of huddled in a parking lot watching over my phone in the one place I could find bars last week.
That's tough going, Case. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it's good to see you back. Pete
Adapt
Smith.
and overcome, Brad.
Yep, absolutely. Adapt and overcome, as the Browns will look to do today as well. Follow Casey's suit. What's going on, Pete? How are you, sir?
I'm here. I'm hoping that the Browns will play about as well as Casey's doing now, as opposed to how he was doing last week. So we'll see what happens. We're seeing that the Browns are slightly healthier. That's a trend that has to continue. I'm praying to whatever football gods there are that the Washington terrible grass is kind to the Browns this week and doesn't take any victims.
Yeah, me too, because that's one thing we can't afford is more injuries. Back swinging around to my man up top, Jacob Roach. Do we have you now? Can I hear you?
Yeah, no, I always forget I have to turn my mic on, and I just always don't do it.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. As Casey said, adapt and adjust, or whatever he said, and overcome. All of it. All of it. So what's going on, Jacob? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm feeling optimistic. Got a good workout in beforehand. Let's see if we can do something fun today.
Good workout in beforehand. That's good to hear. Better man than me. All right, so let's dive into this one. This is an interesting one. The Browns have failed to score 20 points yet this season. The offense is 31st in the NFL. The Commanders have been on fire. They're upstart, hot team, 3-1. They have not scored under 20 points this season. To look at it in reverse there, or inverted. As Bo Bishop would say. And the offensive line is where I want to start here, because you had hopes. We had hopes. And Jack Conklin is still inactive. Well, I guess we can start with the inactives. Let's go down the inactive list here first, and then we'll get into the offensive line based off of that. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is out, as imagined. Khalif Halassi, Jordan Hicks, as we expected, going to miss this one. Devin Bush going to step in his spot, it sounds like, we'll see who takes the most snaps, but it sounds like a heavier workload for Devin Bush. James Hudson out. No, he avoids the IR, at least for the moment. Javian Cohen, Jack Conklin still out. Was hoping to have it back. And Jamari Thrash out. So with Conklin still out, Jacob, where do you see this? What does this offensive line look like today? Michael Dunn is actually back and active. DeJuan Jones is going to start at right tackle. I did see that. Are you guessing Jed Wills will start at left tackle then?
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, the only other guy that you would want to start there, I guess, is James Hudson, and he's out. I mean, I don't imagine wanting to start a Fetty over there or anything like that. And I know it was kind of a roller coaster for Jed on his first appearance earlier this year, some plays where he didn't block anybody. But I still feel better with him there than James Hudson. Not a lot better, but I do feel a little bit better than with Hudson there.
Casey and Pete, they've had a terrible time dealing with twist stunts. All the games that teams will run against them, they just haven't been able to communicate up front. It seems like a fixable issue. Is this you guys would know better than me? Is this a time thing that has to, that they have to sort this out, or is this just them repeating mistakes week in, week out that we're seeing them unable to handle? The games other teams are going to play them, I'm sure going to see it more again today. It's on tape that it's effective against the Browns. I would probably imagine seeing more of that from Washington today. Casey, what do you think?
Well, that's just it. Until they prove they can come up with answers for it, they're going to have to keep seeing it. Dan Quinn has the same tape that we're watching, and they're going to see pretty good interior play from Washington, lackluster on the edges, which meets more of what your strengths are, which actually hasn't been a strength this season. But with the inclusion of Jed back into the offense, hopefully DeJuan's a week closer to being healthy and being the DeJuan we need him to be. I just want to see improvement. They've been an F. Give me a D performance, and I'll be happy today.
Yeah, Pete, Zach Zinter made his first start last week. He'll make his second start this week. What did you think of him? And the same, it's kind of the same question with the games that they've been struggling with. What do you expect to see from the offensive line today? Can we hope for marked improvement?
No. There's two parts to this. There's the communication part, which is fixable. The problem is if your guys are getting overpowered and jolted off the line of scrimmage, it's really difficult to then trade and do these other things. So they're just getting rocked backwards, and you're not going to recover from that to pick up the stunt. So that's sort of where they're at. They're a little bit underpowered at center. They've got a rookie who's not where he needs to be in terms of like NFL power. But Zach Zinter, I really like what I see from him in terms of his sort of intelligence and just being tough and just being in the right places. He does a really good job of that stuff. I think as he gets more confident in terms of just playing at this level and then continues to build on his strength, keeping in mind that we sort of he lost a sizable part of an offseason with a broken leg. I think he will be a good player. Now, Pro Bowls and all that, who knows? But just a good, competent offensive lineman, which is what you need him to be. Certainly, you're hoping that the experience pays off right now until Wyatt Teller is able to come back. And I'm sort of like in this mode where, assuming DeJuan Jones's knee is healthier than it was, I'm okay with Conklin not playing if that means he's going to be healthier when he returns. In the same way that if Zach Zinter's doing okay, I'd rather they be patient with Wyatt Teller. Now, this is all really difficult to say when the Browns are 1-3 and they need everybody back right now and they need to win games. But if they can sort of hold down the fort and find ways to win, then you can sort of be patient and look at this as sort of a long haul, because that's what it is. We are just entering month 2 of the season. It's a long year, but it's going to be difficult if they are continuing to get overpowered up front. I kind of like the matchup for the Browns in this one in terms of, don't get me wrong, Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen can create problems, but if you're like trying to bull rush DeJuan Jones and Jed Wills, I feel okay about that. We'll see how it goes with the guard play. Joe Bitonio's still playing hurt, and you've got a rookie in there, but like, I'd like to think they can do better than they have, but they've, to Casey's point, they have to prove they can be better.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is, you mentioned the field in Landover, Maryland, where this game is being played at the Commies Stadium. This defense has not lived up to what we expected so far this year, but they've kept this team in games. Like, they haven't been terrible, but they haven't been up to their billing, I would say, right? Like, so a huge issue with missed tackles last week. Now you're without Jordan Hicks and you have Devin Bush in there. Do you expect to see an improvement in the tackling aspect of this game, Jacob? And what do you expect to see from this defense today? As well, let's talk about this. Jaden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury, they've been on fire. you're going to get more than half the time no huddle stuff. And they've done this on purpose to kind of keep, coverages vanilla for Jaden. They have not taken a lot of deep shots. I know that, the two big plays we saw against the Bengals were like their two explosives over 20 yards in the pass game. Most of their explosives are coming from Daniels getting out and scrambling. So, as a defense, how do you approach this today?
One thing I really liked this week, JOK was talking about that they prepared like they prepare for Lamar Jackson, and that's kind of something they have done, at twice a year for the entire time JOK's been here, obviously. So there is definitely an emphasis on trying to contain him. They're very aware of that threat, as anybody who watches the Commanders is. But I think I didn't feel like there were as many issues with tackling last year, last year, and Schwartz very well made a point to bring that up. So it feels like that is definitely an emphasis for them this week. I mean, they're being over aggressive, missing tackles, and I'd rather them tackle a guy for a 3-yard gain than missing a tackle in the backfield that turns into a 15-yard gain. I think they need to be a little bit more conservative in terms of the aggression with Jaden Daniels, because if they come down all out blitz, and they leave him a lane, he's just going to run forever. So I think tackling, there's going to be an emphasis on that, and just making sure they don't allow Jaden Daniels to use his legs all day long.
Yeah, Casey, this is an interesting offense they're going to face, right? Kingsbury's been known to get out to these hot starts. It's not always been sustainable in Arizona, but Jaden Daniels might make it sustainable is kind of what people are thinking, right? Very accurate in the short to intermediate. That 80, high 80s, 90% completion rate isn't really sustainable either. Well, how do you think the Browns attack him? Because you really have to contain his ability to get out and scramble. That's how they're getting most of their big plays. And then they're moving the chains with, smart underneath passing.
Yeah, I see this as a chess match between Jim Schwartz and Cliff Kingsbury, and credit to Kingsbury. Like you pointed out, it's the use of no huddle, but it's not hurry up. It's just literally get him to the line, get a good look at everything, keep certain personnel groups on the field, try to wear defenses down. And there are some things that do transfer from Lamar's game to Jaden's game, although I think Jaden's a much better thrower of the ball outside the numbers. But it's what he hurts with his legs. But unlike Lamar, he's there to be hit. Lamar is really good at not taking full shots. Jaden has throughout his college career showed that he will be in car crashes. So it's up to when he does run, you got to make him pay for that. You got to take that off his menu. Because if you don't, he's just going to take free yards. And you're lucky that you do have players like JOK and Grant Delpit who can do a better job tracking in the open field. But it comes down to not missing tackles, because if you do, he will run wild. And it's up to this defense. This defense has had lapses where it'll play good, but then have like 2 back-to-back drives where they just give up everything, and all of a sudden you're down 2 scores, and this offense isn't built to play from behind. So it's incumbent upon this defense to do its very best to mitigate those lapses. And it seems to be at the end of the first half. They've been able to adjust in the second half and take things away. So it's going to be a chess match from Jim Schwartz on Cliff Kingsbury, and try to make them get outside of their comfort zone. If they can do that, and take advantage of the fact you're facing a rookie. If you allow them to dictate by staying no huddle, keeping you in certain personnel groups, and letting him play to his strengths, then you're going to be playing, reactive football, and you need to make sure you dictate the terms as a defense.
Yeah, you got to think JOK, Grant Delpit, big days for both of them. You need big games for both of them in this one. Pete, how do you go about trying to slow down this offense right now with the no huddle, with the Jaden Daniels getting out and making plays with his legs? What's the approach today? Do you think you change the approach if you're Jim Schwartz? And if there was ever a time for him to dial up a beauty, it would be this one, right? They need it badly.
Well, if they are preparing for this like it's Lamar Jackson, then I would hope that means they have more disciplined rush lanes, that they're going to be more focused on taking away the ability to escape have guys playing a little bit more of a contained role. You'd hope that Myles Garrett is true to his word when he says he feels as the best he's felt since last year. He needs, the Browns defense so often goes as he does, where he has to be, the defensive player of the year type performance, and he can carry this group. But JOK, along with the whole discipline rushing lanes, that also creates opportunities for JOK as a blitzer to get on a guy like Jaden Daniels immediately. And if you think back to like Cliff Kingsbury's offenses in Arizona, there were teams that were just able to overwhelm Kyler Murray at the point of attack and just constantly swarm him. That's the dream. So they have to prove that. They have to tackle better, and part of tackling better, I would dispute somewhat that they were a better tackling team last year. I think some of that was a product of they had more room for error. Like when three guys are diving at somebody in a very tight space, you're going to hit them, as opposed to having sort of three guys spread out throwing themselves because there's more room to miss. I agree with Jacob's point that just make tackles. We've seen tackles for loss missed that then yield positive yardage. If they just take care of the stuff they're going to do, that would be huge. And then just the secondary bouncing back in a big way. Denzel Ward's been great. Hopefully the shoulder is improving. Martin Emerson has had a tough few weeks. If he's consistently covering a bigger body receiver, I think that will be really good for him. I'm hoping they play a little bit more matchup man in this one, because the body type sort of just lend itself to that. But they've just got to be able to succeed a little bit, get that momentum going. And obviously turnovers would be great. They, get them to make a mistake, get them to be able to dictate terms a little bit. But overall, I hope they don't just get in a world where they're just going to constantly be super aggressive and not mix anything up. I want to see some more things that try to get the quarterback, thinking and having to second guess himself a little bit, hold the ball a little bit. He's a dynamic athlete who can make guys miss, but he's, one of the knocks coming out of college was he's little. So find a way to get your body on him legally. And, that may slow him down over the course of the game, which is often what happens to Kyler Murray when he would lose in Arizona. I think trying to attack it that way gives the Browns a lot of opportunities. But yeah, having guys like JOK, Grant Delpit may have to blitz to try to time up some weird looks to get unexpected pressure, those type of things, to get the ball out of his hands or potentially get a big hit. So I'm hoping we see a little bit a varied approach as opposed to weeks past.
You're watching the OBR pregame show. Browns at Commies in Maryland today. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. And it only takes a second. It's free. It helps us out a great deal. So we appreciate that in advance. Good to see you all in the chat hanging out before this one. As you mentioned there, Pete, I want to go right back to you on this. Terry McLaurin, stud wide receiver. If you could, are you going to try? You mentioned the matchup. Are you trying to have Denzel follow him like they did before? I know they've talked about not doing that in the past, but they did it in the second half against Neighbors. Would you start out guarding him that way?
Yeah, and it just comes down to body types. I assume Noah Brown's playing in this, but that is a guy who's more suited to Emerson's body type. Denzel Ward is more suited to go against a guy like Terry McLaurin. Now, at that point, you have to have plans for when Kingsbury and that offense are inevitably going to try to come up with ways to rub and do some other things to create that separation. The only concern I would have is, does Denzel's shoulder limit him from following McLaurin if he goes into the slot? At that point, Greg Newsom's going to have to take him. But overall, other than that, I want Ward to follow McLaurin as much as possible, frustrate him as much as possible, and force somebody else to beat you. Force somebody else to get the ball. Luke McCaffrey, Zach Ertz, Noah Brown. They don't, Washington's doing a great job of scoring points, but it's not like it's a star-studded cast. There was a reason most people expected Washington to struggle this year. They have a lot of pieces that are not great, and that should be something the Browns should be able to exploit.
My understanding is that Robinson Jr. will be playing today, Casey. So, after the way the Raiders ran all over the Browns last week, what are your thoughts on slowing him down? You also have Austin Eckler, so they kind of have a nice 1-2 punch back there in the backfield.
Yeah, actually, Noah Brown is actually going to be out today, which is that's a good thing. Yeah, I'm really impressed with Brian Robinson. His ability to run between the 20s. I mean, he's a big, powerful back, and he runs with authority. And Eckler's been a good addition to them. He's got more juice than I thought he had, to be honest with you. When he left Los Angeles, I honestly thought he was on his way out of the league, but he definitely resurrected his career. And if you're the Commanders, that's what you're going to do, right? You've seen the tape. Like the Browns struggle against the run game, so that's. If I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I'm making you prove that you have answers for that. Until you do, I'm running the football with Daniels, Eckler, and Robinson. Eckler and Robinson were both kind of iffy this week at times, so I wonder how healthy they are and can they truly lean on that running game. I also think Zach Ertz is another big factor in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not going to blow the top off anything, but he's definitely a guy that can move the sticks for them, and he's been a good security blanket for Jaden Daniels.
He has been for sure. So with Noah Brown out, you're looking at Diami Brown and all of them. I don't know how to say his first name, but Zacchaeus.
Olamide Zacchaeus.
Yeah,
loved him coming out of UVA.
Yeah. Zacchaeus. So he's actually beat us before with somebody. He had a really big game against us.
Atlanta,
2022. There it is.
I love that you knew that answer.
Bang, bang. And then Luke McCaffrey is their slot guy. So he's got off to a nice little start to his career. Jacob, all in combined, a lot of teams have not, and I was reading about this and wrote on it a little bit, but the teams really haven't challenged them with some of the stuff that you would throw at rookie quarterbacks because it will go to the no huddle. Like you said, it's not a hurry up. They're often running the clock down even. It's just giving him more time to look at a defense and keeping defenses in what they're in, not allow them to sub, and they're playing more vanilla stuff because of it. It's a good plan for a rookie quarterback, but the Browns should be a more advanced defense than what this team has seen up to this year. They get Cleveland this week. I think they get Baltimore next week or in the next couple weeks here. So they're going to see two of the better defenses they've seen, hopefully, if the Browns play well. How do you, try to confuse Jaden? I wouldn't be afraid to try to get some exotic stuff in there if you can. I know they're trying to avoid that. And how do you slow down sometimes you've seen these clips where they will just go like 4 plays right down the field in the no huddle because they've got you trapped in like 13 personnel and they've got good matchups and they'll just go right down. How do you avoid that if you're the Browns?
One thing I like about the Browns' defensive structure is how many players can play in different spots. You can line Grant Delpit up in different areas in the slot, in the box, back deep. Same thing with Rodney McLeod. I think you've got to be prepared to get those guys that are very versatile on the field. And I know that's easier said than done, but keeping them on the field with multiple calls, you can move them all over the defensive backfield and things of that nature. Cause they're going to keep you locked into those personnel packages. And you don't, the Browns love man coverage, but the one thing about man coverage is you run a bunch of go routes. It pulls everybody away for the quarterback to take off underneath. And so it's such a fine line. I mean, you almost want them to play a lot of zone, but then again, isn't that kind of some of the things that you struggle out in some of the vanilla coverages that you have? I just think you got to play smart and efficient. You just can't leave. One thing they've been doing when they blitz is leave one dude wide open. Just they'll bring a bunch of pressure and leave one dude wide open for a quick hit. You just can't have any lapses in coverage for easy answers. Force Jaden to go through his progressions, hold on to the ball, or run. Just don't give up those big, easy chunk plays.
Pete, because of those reasons that he just mentioned, turning your back to Daniels and what a threat he is, do you think we see more zone today?
No, just because Jim Schwartz is a stubborn man.
That's fair.
He is.
Look, last week, third and what felt like, I think 15, something like that, and they ran inverted cover 2. For the love of God, just run cover 4. But yeah, he's stubborn. The thing I worry about in hurry up is just the defensive tackle position. I do think the Browns have a lot of versatility in everything else, but if the Commanders want to really pound the ball and they get in a situation where they catch Quentin Jefferson and Sam Kamara on the field and they just lock them in there, or vice versa, they are able to lock Dalvin Tomlinson and Shelby Harris on the field and try to pass the ball more. Or if Myles Garrett's not on the field, lock him off the field would be my first priority. Those are where you can run into some issues. I'll be curious to see if they sort of mix up those lineups a little bit more in terms of Dalvin Tomlinson and Quentin Jefferson, and then Shelby Harris maybe with Sam Kamara, something along those lines. So they're not entirely dedicated to one thing or the other to try to sort of keep themselves a little bit more balanced. But yeah, I mean, this is why hurry up's valuable for everybody, is you can do these things. Like you can lock a superstar defensive lineman off the field and have to figure it out. So they need everybody to be able to contribute. You have guys like Isaiah McGuire, who was able to have a nice game last week. He's going to have a bigger role with the loss of Alex Wright. Obanya Okoronkwo is going to probably have to make a bigger contribution. You're going to have to see some of these guys chip in more and not become sort of a liability where they get stuck on the field and get in a trap where suddenly the Browns feel like they're out personnel and potentially run into a situation where they have to call timeout because they feel like they have to be able to change their personnel. That's the nightmare scenario.
Yeah, I worry about that too. Where you're just like getting overwhelmed. It's happened to a couple teams that have played Washington early in the season where they didn't call timeout and they got scored on in like 4 plays because of the reasons we just mentioned. All right, before we switch over to the offensive side of the football, let's take a look real quick at Core Home Fitness. We recently introduced our new sponsors to you at Core Home Fitness. Look up our friends at Core Home Fitness. You can find them at corehomefitness.com. Check out their assortment of lifting equipment, and especially their top-rated adjustable dumbbells by the New York Times and Men's Health. They're also rated a Best Buy by Consumer Reports. I know Mike's usually in here talking about these dumbbells that he's ordered and that he's going to be working on his frame. I should probably do the same, but it looks fantastic. Those stuff looks amazing. Check out their videos and other products like the Glute Drive Plus and the Fight Master and Crush Your Goals in 2024. They've got a U.S.-based support team, fast shipping, hassle-free returns. You name it, they know what they're doing. Again, check out corehomefitness.com for the ultimate in-home fitness equipment. They have stepped up to sponsor the OBR, and they rock for sure. Are these epic dumbbells. Bring the gym home, baby. Get your work done at home with Core Home Fitness. There it is. So wanted to lay that out for you real quick. Before we get to the offensive side of the ball, you're watching the OBR pregame show. Hit like and subscribe. We've got Jacob Roach, Casey Kinnaman, Pete Smith, myself, Brad Ward here. Before the game, we'll also be here after the game at 7 p.m. For the post-game show to either, help you through the tough times or celebrate, one or the other. Let's go, Jacob. Offense, Deshaun Watson. Got to talk about it. He, PFF grade through the roof last week, right? A lot of people have been talking about what a great game he had. And they scored 10 points and lost. So, I am at the point, and we talked a little bit about this on Thursday, where it's a step forward that he played better, and you want to see him build off of that for sure. But I'd also like to see him make some clutch plays down the stretch of games if you're in a close game as well. What do you expect from Deshaun in the offense today, Jacob?
This is a matchup they should win, so it should be a step in the right direction. But again, we've said that about the defenses they faced the last couple of weeks as well, and it really hasn't been any kind of explosion. But I think David Njoku really, I told you that on Thursday, Brad. I think he plays a big part in getting rid of the ball quickly and letting his playmakers make plays. He's just holding on to the ball for a really long time for a guy that has a really bad offensive line, but I think some of this quick passing game, some of the screens, I think you probably see some of those things. If they want to take a step forward, they should be able to run the ball a little bit. I think they take a step forward, especially with Njoku out there, but I just don't know how big of a step.
Yeah, and Njoku's got to help. Casey, what do you think this week? We didn't really get to talk to you. What did you think of Deshaun last week? And what are you thinking with Njoku back this week?
Well, let's start with Deshaun first. Yeah, he played better, but it's still a far cry for me. For me, like when everyone references the contract and everything, the reason you do what you do to go get that guy is because at the end, when games are at their most important in the fourth quarter, you feel like you got to play keep away from my guy, because if my guy's on the field, we're going to go win that game. And we've seen over the last 2 games, he's had 5 opportunities to go win a game and 0 for 5. So for me, that's the most important metric. And you're looking at a team that this offense throughout this entire stretch so far gives you about 2 drives a game. That's got to be up, man. If you're going to beat a team like Washington, as hot as their offense has been, even with your defensive advantages, they're going to put up points. They're going to find ways. They've showed you that they're going to manufacture 20 points. They haven't scored under 20 points. You haven't scored 20 points. This offense needs to give you 4 or 5 drives a day to come away with points. Obviously, it'd be nice if the defense gets another defensive touchdown. Can't count on that, man. I'm going to need at least 4 scoring drives, and preferably 3 of them end in 6. That's the way this has to go. Hopefully, David Njoku gives you a big boost, even as a blocker, as a good release valve, as someone that Deshaun has yet to really lean on Njoku when he's been in the games, even dating back to 2 years ago and last year. That needs to be something that changes. This offense, the passing game, can run through Njoku and get everything else on track, and allow him to get comfortable in the scheme. And the beginning of the game has not been the problem with this offense. Their scripted drives have looked great, So
They have.
you don't get away from that, but you can't just disappear for 3 quarters of the game and expect to have a chance to win it at the end. So it's about being consistent, putting together drives, even ones that don't result in 6. Give your defense a break, win some field position battles. Let Borquez be a weapon for you guys and try to pin this rookie deep and make him come up with tough answers in those situations.
Yeah, you're right about, keeping the defense off the field. The 3 and outs are too much at times. Pete, how much of an impact does Njoku make? A, does he help with pass protection at all? And B, is it more of him just being a weapon for you?
Well, some of that's going to depend on how healthy he is, if the ankle is still lingering or not. But I think regardless, his presence should open up guys on the outside, because that's one thing they've been missing is that big presence in the middle. And that was a huge element of this offense going into the season, was that you're going to have to dedicate 1, potentially 2 guys on a given play to him, which should give more space to guys like Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, and some of these other guys. So, yeah, you can use him as a run blocker. Certainly he has value in that capacity, but he doesn't need to be a superstar athlete to sort of be that check down, to be the guy who just finds space in the middle of the field. But if we see, throughout this game that his presence takes coverage or takes pressure away from those outlet receivers, that's going to be a big boost in itself, and he may open up other guys. So, they have to do their part. Amari Cooper needs to, make the plays that he didn't make last week, and get credit for the plays he should have gotten last week. And then Jerry Jeudy needs to keep coming. If they do those things, like some of that is going to be David Njoku's presence, and you did not have that with one of the greatest tight ends ever to play, Blake Whitehart. But that you just lose a lot by not having. It's the Browns tight end position. We talked about this all offseason was with David Njoku. The rest are sort of role players at best. They're not like playmakers. And even Jordan Akins has had a couple of plays, but like most of those plays are on the opening script. Down the line, those guys aren't making plays. And that's where David Njoku is supposed to be, like, arguably the best player on offense. And having that presence back is enormous. And I think will make a big difference for other guys. Now, what if the Browns can get the Deshaun Watson performance they got last week, if they can get guys to just be who they are normally, regress to the mean, essentially, the Browns should be able to find ways to score points. Hopefully, they not only score on the first drive or the first two drives, but they score on other drives too. That would be a nice change. That it's not 10-0, and then it's just a matter of bleeding from that point on. That hopefully they can keep the pressure on and just keep building and building and building.
Yeah. As far as their offensive play calling and approach has gone, Jake, all you guys go around on this. It's kind of been a hybrid, right? We've seen a mix and match. We saw them start the Jacksonville game with heavy and run the ball a bunch early, and they found some success with that, and they've gotten away from the run in some of these games. Against this team, I worry because their secondary is a little bit weaker, that the Browns get away from the run early and don't get back to it. Is it important for them to continue to run the ball today, or can they get away with throwing against the secondary all day?
I mean, I think they've got to run the ball at any point to stay balanced, like especially if you get a lead in the second half, if you're not establishing something and you can't like eat up some clock. But do I think they might feel encouraged to throw it more because of the secondary? Yeah, I'm sure that's probably in their head. I mean, that secondary's it's bad, but like when you got a quarterback that's just not seeing the entire field all the time and not processing things quickly, his best friend is complement. I can never say I can't say that word. You say that word, Casey?
Complimentary.
There we go. It's a word I can't say. I swear. I don't know why, but I can't say it properly, and I always sound like a baboon. But you've got to be able to do those things and take some pressure off your quarterback, because I just don't think he's a dude that can win throwing it 50 times a game.
It's a good point. Casey, what do you expect from the offense?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay out of that. I'm trying to stay out of 40, 50 attempts if I can possibly do so.
Sure.
The Commanders' secondary is bad, but so was the Giants. So was the Raiders. Don't get outside of who you are because of who they are. Do what you do. And for me, that is, you got to run the football, establish some things, get them to, second and manageable, and then not put everything on Deshaun to come up with every answer. Because the more times he drops back, it's just you've seen how the offensive line is not handling stunts properly, and blitz recognition has been an issue. So I don't want to put the ball in his hands that many times if I can help it. But they still have to find that balance, which we haven't seen since week 2. Week 2, we seen that just the nature in which they were being physical with Foreman and using Ford as the change of pace guy, and they just completely got away from that right away. I don't know if there's injuries we don't know about or what caused them to deviate from that so far, but for me, that's what you need to do, just to maintain a steady offense, something that can sustain drives and not be just hot and cold, and all of a sudden you're just 3 and out because the passing game is not clicking right away. So for me, I think they need to establish the run and try to strike a balance, which is going to end up more on the pass side, just based on the league and your skill set, where everything lies, and the defense, the way they're going to come at you. But if it's too lopsided, I fear the game could get out of hand with the way Washington can put up points.
Yeah, it's scary. The run game has been mostly Jerome Ford, and I think many could argue that he has been maybe one of their best weapons even this entire season so far. If they can't get away from it, what do you expect from the run game today? Anything different? And how do you attack this Washington defense?
Well, I'm hoping that just them continuing to work. This is one of those things I do think can get better just by practicing, is them getting a little bit more consistent up front with the run blocking. I'd like to see, as opposed to 1, 2, 1, 3, 35, I'd like to see a little bit more of 3, 4, 5 yard runs from Jerome Ford. And a lot of that's the product of the front. I mean, Deontay Foreman's getting nothing. He's running basically 0 yards in attempt at this point because they can't get anything going. And that was what they were going to do, put a hammer in there and pound it. And that's not having an impact. So it's tough to be able to rely on the running game when you are working in that world where so often you are going from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 9. So I would like to see more of that. I would like to see them find a way to get the screen game going, particularly Jerome Ford. Would not be shocked if they come out and go David Njoku on a screen if they feel like he's running well enough to try to take some pressure off that way. But ultimately, so much of this is get the ball out of Deshaun Watson's hands as best you can, get guys open. I do think they can create opportunities outside against these corners and just make the most of the opportunities that are there. Like, so much of this just ends up being, find a way to avoid making those stupid mistakes that are killing your drives, whether it's a penalty, a drop, whatever it is. They just need to get in some kind of flow where it doesn't feel like they're playing football like they're going to break something, where it always feels like they are carrying an egg and they have to somehow keep this egg from fracturing the entire way down the field. And that's a really difficult way to operate, where you want to feel like you have some confidence. You want to feel you have some go-tos, and it really doesn't feel that way. And some of that, and this is where people get on coaching, is like, what do you, this is where I desperately ask people, what do you want them to do when they are not blocking, when guys are dropping the ball, when they're getting penalties and all these other things? Like, I desperately hope that they can just get out of that mindset. I theorized, and I believe it, that Amari Cooper and some of these other guys are pressing so hard because they want to be successful so much that it's actually causing more problems than it's solving. And I think they just need to sort of get to that, where they're not overthinking everything, where they're not putting so much pressure on everything. And when you are in a situation where, it feels like this is our drive, we are going to have to make it count or we're going to lose or something like that, that's an awful way to have to play the game consistently over 60 minutes of a game. So if they can just get out of that and just play, I think they will be far better.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly that playing more a loose game and confident game would benefit all of them, as they all appear a little tight right now. So let's go around here, guys, as we're closing in on game time here, and get your final thoughts. I want to know who you think is the biggest impact player today for the Browns, and give me your prediction and any final thoughts you want to get out there. Keys to victory, whatever. The floor is yours. We're going to go around one last time and then get out of here so we can go watch this thing. We'll be back tonight. Tune in tonight. Lock it in. Write it down. Take a picture. I don't care. We'll be here 7 p.m. tonight for the post-game show, and we will hash it out. So, Barry McBride in the chat, 26-23 Browns. I love it. Starting us off. Gotta love that. And Chris saying Delpit is his guy today. All right, so let's go, Jacob. What do you got? Who's your guy? Keys to victory and your score.
I think it's David Njoku. I know we have no idea how healthy he is, but I think what he can do in every facet of the game as a pass blocker, a run blocker, and what he does after the catch, I think eases some of the pressure and some of the weight that's on Watson's shoulders and helps out whatever tackle he's next to, especially in the run back blocking situations. And I don't know how much he's going to play because, like Pete said, we don't know how healthy he is, but I think him coming back, that's one of those reinforcements you were looking for. So getting him back and getting him into the mix, maybe that's that kind of missing piece. But I'm not super confident. I'm not flip-flopping. I'm not going to be soft this week. So I'll stick with my regular prediction. It's going to be 24-18 Commanders.
All right. My key, complimentary football. We've yet to see it. I've heard about it. It's a legend. It's a myth. Let's see it. And I don't need all three phases to be excellent. I need one phase to be excellent. That'd be the defense. I need the other two just to not lose this thing. My player for this game, though, will be Amari Cooper. The Jekyll and Hyde season continues. I think we'll have a big game today, and the next weekend we'll hold our breath. Final score, I'm going to give you 22-20 Browns.
Wait, so Roachism, you picked the Commanders?
Yeah.
All right. Pete, what do you got for us?
Well, I think this is a Myles Garrett game. Line him up against Andrew Wiley as much as you can and just see if he can dominate, or Cornelius Lucas, whoever. But this is the type of game where Myles, to me, I think Myles Garrett is going to put this on his back. He says he's feeling better. I hope that's true. If he is, he can be a dominant force. If he puts body blows on little Jaden Daniels, I mean, that's going to be a huge impact. I think he get a sack fumble in this and set the tone for everybody else. And, to me, I think this, if the Browns are going to win this, I would love to see an offensive explosion, but it feels more like when the Browns beat the 49ers last year, also in their 5th game of the year, where the defense played really, really well against this offense. The Commanders have not faced a team like the Browns yet. So I picked 19-17 based on last year's score. So much of this is based on the NFL is weird, and I'm hoping weird happens where everybody expects the Commanders to, of course, handle business against the Browns, and the Browns win in, hopefully lopsided fashion and confuse people further.
Yeah. So this game actually presents an opportunity, I think, for the Browns here. I talked a lot about this week and wrote about this week about that this team just feels like they don't have that it factor, or there's something underlying missing from this team. And this is an opportunity for a galvanizing win, right? And the Browns need that badly, something to bring them all together. And the way the Commanders have started it does present them with that opportunity. So I expect a really good performance from the defense today. I think they'll be firing on all cylinders, fired up to slow down this Commanders team. JOK is my guy of the day. He's everywhere. He's making plays. He's going to cause a turnover. And I have got the Browns winning 24-13. I feel strangely good about this game. I didn't feel good about last week, but I do feel good about this one. I like the matchup, and I think it's a chance for the Browns to really kind of put their foot in the ground and pivot back the other direction. So let's hope that all comes true. You guys were fantastic as always. We're going to catch you guys on the flip side. Go get comfortable, grab a beverage, enjoy the game. Go Brownies. We'll see you after the game, 7 p.m. tonight, to talk all about it, break it down like only the OBR can. And make sure you're locked in over at the OBR.com for all of the post-game writings, and sign up for the newsletter, which we'll drop in the link below so you can get everything right in your inbox. Hit like and subscribe on your way out. For Jacob, Casey, Pete, Barry in the chat, my name is Brad Ward. Go Browns.